Good evening and welcome to Skits and Quibbles. I am Precocious Lotus, but if you watch our sister show, Mental Health Matters, you may also know me as Dr. Audrey Tang. That's my day job. By night, I teach burlesque for fitness and confidence. More on that in a minute. We have got a fabulous season 2 lined up for you. We are doing the Spotlight series of Skits and Quibbles. So we bring on performers, change makers, innovators. We get to see their work and, of course, find out what makes them tick. But before we meet our first guest, I'd like you to join me on the main stage. Now, as I said, I teach burlesque for fitness and for confidence and for appreciation of our bodies as a vehicle to explore the world, not something to be looked at and objectified. But there is one small exception. I do want to teach you today the showgirl pose, because this accentuates everything you've got and you get to be proud of who you are and what you look like. So all I want you to do is think about the word star. First of all, think shape. It doesn't matter what your shape, you make the most of your shape. That's what we want to think about, so you can give yourself a little bit of a stroke there. T is how you stand with your feet in a T shape, or third position if you used to do ballet. So that T shape with the feet. A, think angles. We never go straight onto anything. We accentuate our shape. So think angles. And then R, be ready. Be raring to go. And with R, I want your energy to come forward. So I don't necessarily mean you're doing a Michael Jackson leaning forward, but just get onto the balls of your feet, get the weight, get the energy forward, and then simply smile. Now, if you are ready to meet our first star, I have Sharon De Leonardis in with me today. She is an actor, writer, producer, a dance teacher. She has done so much. She is the CEO of Spectacular Arts and works so hard to improve equality, diversity, and making us think. Let's see her in action.
You know, the GCSE sociology course. They talked about absent Caribbean fathers.
I know what you mean. It was Hodder Education. It was a textbook written to support the AQA sociology course.
Yes, them. Remember they said something about Caribbean fathers being largely absent. Largely absent, you know.
They said some other foolishness, didn't they?
Yes, but let me look it up, because since the menopause, my memory is rubbish. Thank God for the internet. Let me have a look. Right, just going to find it now. Okay. Yes, here it is. They said, women assume most of the child-rearing responsibilities, and when men and women live together, it is usually in the cohabiting or common law relationship that reproduces the traditional patriarchal division of labour. Which is nonsense. My parents are still married to each other, and they both worked, and they taught me and my brothers and sisters to cook, wash our clothes, iron them, and that was the norm in my experience. But this was not the norm. Yeah? And this textbook made it sound like men worked in the field while women did needlepoint work at home.
Yeah. And then didn't they say something about the family system? The family system being characterised by child shifting. Yes. Child shifting. Well, you know, I did A-level sociology, back in the day. But I've never heard this terminology until I read the Guardian newspaper article where they were quoting the textbook, defining child shifting as the passing of children over to other relatives or acquaintances if the parents were unable to look after their own children. So that's us as an entire community, branded in a textbook, issued nationally to schools, the seat of learning, as having largely absent fathers and as being one big informal child shifting cultural arrangement. Wow.
Sharon, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
So we've just seen a little extract from Rise of the Empress, which is your statement on your heritage, your understanding of the world, and you want to teach us a lot more about the understanding of what it is to be a black woman. Yeah. Please tell me, how did you get inspired by all the themes that you've chosen and all the elements of it?
I got inspired by all the themes that I chose because I felt that I was having Groundhog Day. A lot of the time I was having conversations about race, diversity, people's understanding of how racism has affected the whole world. And I was just having the same conversation over and over, having to explain, and a lot of the time having to educate.
Yeah.
So it got to a point where I was having one particular conversation with an organisation, and it was an educational organisation.
Right.
And it was part of the creative arts department. Having the conversation about race, why it matters, representation, and having the authentic truth and
yes.
voice. Now, after having about an hour's conversation with this individual, she sat down and said, "Do you know what? I really get it now." She goes, "And I wish everybody could have this conversation I'm having with you, because I think it will start to make more people get it and question more."
When you talk about authenticity, this is something that is missing in a lot of creative work that we do see that's already established. It's almost a representation of a certain type of character.
Right.
And even then, it's sometimes written in the eyes of somebody who hasn't got that understanding of experience yet.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important. It has to come through the authentic voice. As you said, people have their idea on what somebody should be like or how things should be, and that's their idea and opinion. But you've got to sit back and say, okay, how have you come up with that idea and opinion? Where did you get that information from? What's your social circles like, to see if you can, with the information that you've got, balance it with reality?
Yes.
So I was finding, as you said, the authentic voice wasn't coming through. It was people that had already got their preconceptions of what, and let's be honest, what the black community are like. And for me, there are certain stereotypes that most people use as their go-to book to understand how black people are. So we've got some typical stereotypes: the layabout, the angry black woman, the young people or can only do drug dealing, certain jobs. So there are certain stereotypes. And what I was trying to do was break down those stereotypes and say, do you know why those stereotypes have been created? And it's once we get past the stereotypes and then say, so stop conforming to the stereotypes, stop thinking or have your mindset of that's how they are. Because once you strip away the stereotypes, you allow the individual to come forward.
But this is so true of human nature in general. It's any one of us, we may think, oh, we might do the same job or we might go to the same places, but we're all different people, and it's just so strange that we have that closed mind when it comes to the other group or something like that.
Exactly.
Which is,
it's crazy.
What would you like people to think when they watch? I mean, the questions you want them to ask, is it just looking at yourself and kind of thinking, have I judged somebody, or do you want a broader kind of dialogue that they need to have with themselves?
I think what we're trying to do is trying to trigger people to think, hang on a minute. what I've been taught or what I think is actually not maybe correct.
Yeah.
And we want people to come away with thinking that and then starting to say, right, I need to learn for myself. So it's a lot of self-learning, but what we're trying to encourage people is make sure what you're learning is from the authentic narrative.
Yes, yes. And this means talking to people. This means
Absolutely.
and listening.
And listening. And sometimes having challenging conversations, because what we're doing is challenging what has been put out in society for hundreds of years.
Yes.
And this play allows us to challenge those false narratives that have been set about us to control, and it perpetuates the stereotype, the false narratives. And if it's out there and it's been out there for so long, people start to believe that false narrative of who they are.
Yes, yes. How, and you speak very passionately about this, so there is part of me that sort of feels, where has that personal experience come from?
I think the personal experiences come from every day in my life for the last 50 years.
That's heartbreaking, actually, every single day, and we do need to be aware of this.
Yeah, because I can't hide that I am black. There are people that have disabilities that can hide that and mask that. People can mask and hide their thoughts and opinions. I can't hide that I am black, so I'm black every day.
Yeah.
It's something that I can't take off. It's something that I'm hugely proud of, obviously.
And it's, yeah.
But for people, they will always look at me, and that, for some, is the first label that they will see before I open my mouth, before I say who I am. They will already have preconceptions of who they think I am.
Yeah. I get that. And the worst part is, just listening to you talking about it, I don't realise how much I've normalised some of those things.
Negative stereotypes.
Yeah, very much like you. I can't hide that I'm Asian. I'm Southeast Asian. And I know if I walk into a class as a trainer and people look at me, they've judged me immediately before I open my mouth. And I've come to almost forget that because it's so normal, and it really ought not to be.
Right, so for instance, when I said to you every day of my life, so 50 years, and you're like, wow. So even as I am now, and I think, well, I'm a professional. I have worked, I have become a manager, so I have done my bit. Yeah. But still to this day, I can go into a room and nobody will assume that I'm a CEO or I've done what I have. I've been in an organisation a few years ago as a business development manager, and when I was working, somebody came and said, oh, I just thought you were a waitress or something. I had no idea. Oh my goodness. And then the explanation for me being the business manager from that business owner, oh yes, she's an incredible find, but don't steal her. And it's, okay, how am I supposed to respond to that?
Yeah.
And so what we do is, I don't want to then fall into the negative stereotypes. Like, what do you mean?
Of course. Yes.
So you have to just, okay, I heard that, but let me just keep this and let me show you everything that's not a stereotype.
Yeah, and the worst part is, because there does feel like there is a bit of a glass ceiling, and that's not just ethnicity. And the problem with that is, because of that ceiling, you don't have many younger women in positions. You don't have as many ethnic minorities, Black, Asian, Eastern, everywhere in positions. And so you don't get to talk to anybody.
No. And so when you get into those rare positions, the ability of your work and what you can do is not the first conversation for people that you're meeting when you're in that role. Oh, I haven't come across them yet. Oh, this is new. Oh, so how did you get there? We're not talking about work. We are talking about their curiosity to somebody that doesn't look like them in a position that, oh, this is new for us.
Yeah. And this is where your place starts. isn't it? It starts in a spa.
Yes.
And so, talk me through that thought process of that opening.
Right. The opening, I wanted to set it somewhere where, because of my background and working as a senior manager and having to go to spas and things like that, places where people don't expect to see black people.
I would never even think that until you say that as well.
So we thought, right, let's set this in somewhere fairly lush and fabulous.
Yeah.
Because why shouldn't we be there? And without question. So we wanted to put it into, this is not quite, we're not used to seeing that. No, you're not. But we do this. So one, we wanted to really do contrast at the top level of who we are.
Yes. Yes.
So that was the first bit. And then to have two female black senior managers together, which is another rarity for me.
Yes. Is there a difference, black women, black men?
I think black males more acceptable in business. Could think about it. It's a male world.
Yes, therefore, so the glass ceiling's been cracked a little bit.
But for females, it's different.
Yeah.
So again, being able to share why.
Yeah.
And for both of us to say that, and then for people then to understand how we navigate in that world. So we're going into a white male-dominated world.
Yes.
Being two black females. So we're now in a world that's kind of not ours. So we've stepped out of the black role that they expect us to be in.
Yeah.
So now the black community are looking at us as females in a white male-dominated world, and now we're alien to them.
I was going to say there's question marks for the community as well, isn't there? That's all part of
Yes, because some people would say,
discussion.
well, you've sold out working for potentially white corporate.
Yeah.
But
you can't change anything unless you go in there.
Thank you. And for them to see something different. So we're kind of in a no man's land. And that's where doing the play and discussing that was great. And then to see the response after the play from other black female professionals tap us on the shoulder and say, thank you for giving us our voice.
Yes. And for visibility and seeing yourself. That's incredible.
And I sent this play script to a couple of people that I know. Thought safe pair of hands. And some of them reading it were like, yeah, this hits it. This isn't my experience as a black woman. Others were like, as a white woman, you've just raised some things that I never thought about. But that one comment from that particular black woman also was then telling me, we have different experiences.
Yes.
You can't
that's okay.
invalidate my experience and say, that's not what a black woman experiences. I'm like, it's just a woman.
Yeah.
Yes, I happen to be black, but we can have different opinions. So I'm trying to get people to understand, even within the black community, we have our own self-imposed stereotypes and ideas of what we can and can't do.
Yes. And it's just simply about getting all of us to think a bit more broadly about ourselves and where we fit in society in general.
In general. And there is a saying, somebody keeps saying this to me and I'm stealing it. Race has been introduced to separate us.
Yeah, very true.
There is only one race, the human race. It wasn't us that brought in the colour as an issue.
Yeah.
But that colour was used to separate us, and then the label race was used. It's an introduced and a false label. But people use it.
And this is where your work is so essential. Now, we are going to talk about this in a second, but we're going to see one of your favourite moments.
Yes.
What is one of your favourite moments? Just introduce that little scene.
This scene, it's the kind of second scene where we've just done our introductions of why we're there and relaxing, and we've made that decision to educate. And it's then on the whiteboard, so we start off with a blackboard, what do we talk about? and we start to bounce ideas and what about this and what about that, and we're starting to get excited, and we've gone from a blank board into so many themes that are there.
Let's have a look.
If you were at work right now and you had an enormous task to deal with, how would you approach it?
Well, we'd typically brainstorm it and then break it down into chunks.
So, well, let's do that then. Let's brainstorm. Let's start with content that we already know.
Okay.
And take it from there.
Right. Well, as we've already started talking about it, let's start with education.
Okay.
Because there was huge amounts of information that I wasn't taught. So, like in history and geography, only included Africa and Caribbean islands as a place on the map.
Yeah. I mean, we were never taught about the greatness of Africa before the Europeans colonized it, divided it amongst themselves, siphoned off all the wealth, and, disrupted principalities and powers.
Okay, and I was never taught about the resulting slave trade.
Oh, I was taught about the transatlantic slave trade, which is what it, as opposed to chattel slavery, which is what it was.
Okay, wait a minute. So what do you mean by chattel slavery?
Oh, so it's where people are seen, well, they're not seen as human, they are seen as literal property to be bought and sold, like a desk or a chair. The slave trade implies everybody got something from the trade. Okay?
Right.
But enslaved Africans were not partners in the transaction. They were the commodity transacted.
Nairobi, it's such a pleasure to be sitting down with you, having watched you perform.
Thank you.
Tell me first of all about your own background as an actor, writer,
Yes.
all of those things, and then we'll talk about the play as well.
Okay, so really, the acting that I do now fell out of my passion for writing poetry. And then people were saying, well, why don't you perform your poetry? And so I did. I started performing it and realized that this was something I really, really enjoyed. And that's really how I stepped into this creative space. Yeah. But ultimately, I was employed like most people. I was working for government and so had a day job and commuting as one does. So I was always furiously scribbling on the way to work, during the lunch break, on the way back home for work, just writing and then getting excited about, I can't wait to share this piece.
And your work, though, is so powerful. Have you always written about social issues, or is it just a whole range of different topics that you cover?
I didn't start writing until about 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. And yes, social issues, because that's where I was at that time. I was experiencing some trauma. I was being racially abused at work. There was a whole court case and all of that. So it was a really very involved process. And part of keeping me sane was to journal and just write about what I was experiencing. And when I started to share what I was writing, people were like, oh, that's really good. And I'm thinking, well, you're supposed to say that. You're my friend and you love me. But then they started sharing my work with other people, their friends. So friends of friends were contacting me saying, oh, have you got any more? This is really good. This really resonated with me. And so I just started to do more and more of it, looking at myself, the things I was experiencing, listening to other people, trying to give form and shape to what they were experiencing. And then that opened the door to writing about other things. So my writing does tend to sit very much in the social sort of activism space. And also, I'm very passionate about chronicling the African and Caribbean contributions to the world, as well as to Britain. So I'm the writer in residence for the Windrush Foundation. and the Equiano Society. So I write a lot about how the Caribbeans came to Britain in the 50s and 60s, and then the Equiano Society, because they look much further back all the way back to antiquity. Then I'm looking at African contributions to world knowledge from before and after slavery.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've got a huge history.
That is particularly key, and that came out of the scenes that we were watching, I was watching earlier, and that is, there is so much of a history before slavery, and yet that's just the first time we seem to meet anyone at all from the African and Caribbean nations, and that's mind-blowing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's part of the system that justified slavery. So there had to be this dehumanizing element to the African peoples, because of course you couldn't have brutalized them if they were on an equal footing, if they were also human. They were beasts, they were animals, So when you use that kind of dehumanizing language about any community, then that almost gives you the right to be able to treat them in a really brutal way, because they're not human. We're not treating our fellow humankind in that way. We're treating beasts and animals in that way. And so what was important to me when I started writing was to obviously highlight why that dehumanizing language exists, where it came from, and who we were before that whole process of racism and racial hierarchies really, justified how capitalism became a prominent, model for Western countries to embed themselves in.
And I think that's one of the most wonderful parts of Rise of the Empress, actually, because I come from Southeast Asia, so Malaysia, and that was a colony.
Yes.
And with that, you get a lot of a mindset, certainly my parents, bless them, when they came over, it's just be quiet, just take it, it's all okay. And it's not, but in their minds, it's a bit like, well, we've been given a hall pass, so let's just be quiet about it. And I honestly, I get it, because you're not looking at who they were before all of that happened, it does make sense to kind of come from that position of feeling your lower value, but you're absolutely rewriting that narrative.
Yes.
And that is just amazing. So tell me how that sort of comes through Rise of the Empress, this whole, I guess it's resurrection of the Empress, isn't it, really?
What we really want to do with Rise of the Empress is position Black people on an equal footing with every community, every other community. Because when you look at the data, when you look at the history, Black people are always at the bottom. And even within the hierarchy of race, they're also at the bottom. And because of this perpetuation of dehumanization. And so we wanted to firmly state that we are not at the bottom. We wanted to explain why we were at the bottom. We wanted to explain who put us at the bottom. And now we're saying we're not staying at the bottom.
Absolutely, absolutely right. You are teaching people some very difficult truths for some, and there's a lot of pressure on you to contain anxieties of others because you're introducing something new to them and everyone feels anxious. So how do you release and look after yourself through that kind of schedule?
Okay, through that schedule, and we've planned it in so that there is the well-being time, because
Brilliant.
we understand the importance of self-care and well-being. If we're not well within ourselves, how can we support somebody else? So the whole process of Rise of the Empress, we knew it would be triggering.
Yes.
We knew it would bring up issues and conversations, and it could bring up a lot of old hurt and abuse. So we've been very mindful from the start, hence we work with an organisation called Power and Discussion that are all about open discussions, well-being. So we start the show off with well-being tips to say if you are triggered, etc., this is the support. And we also finish the show with that and make sure there are people with us that if anybody is getting triggered, they can go and talk to, but there's also information for them for their own personal well-being care. So we give 5 tips for people to help to manage themselves straight away. So when they go home, they're not left with,
this has unlocked everything.
Absolutely.
And now
if they've taken the programme, they've got a leaflet that gives them 5 lovely self-care tips. But for me personally, it's about having a great network of people to talk to. That's a safe pair of hands that will listen as well as give advice. Because sometimes we just need to sound off. We don't need anybody to tell us, well, you need to do this. We know it. We do know it. But sometimes we just need to vent.
Of course.
And I have the most wonderful people. Haven't always been there, I'm not gonna lie. I've got some that have come in recently that I'm like, we were so meant to be. And it is actually the wonderful Nairobi. Absolute incredible source of knowledge, support, empathy. But it's that understanding. And the fact that she's so well crafted, she's amazing, can articulate so well. So whether I need it with long words, big words, or just a short, sharp, fix yourself. So however she wants to do it, I'm listening.
Now, we do have a very special segment for all of our guest stars to undertake. I'm going to take you to our Great Dream Challenge. Right, Sharon, this is the Great Dream Challenge. This Great Dream comes from Action for Happiness, and it's all about the 10 keys to happiness, and they spell out the word Great Dream. So that's lovely. Now, we have a 1-minute timer, and you have 1 minute to take me through all of the things that you've been able to do for yourself in the last, say, month or so that fill up the Great Dream, and we're going to see how far you get. Now, we've had an arts charity trustee do this. He's got as far as Great Dree. So, which is further than me in a minute, which I got to Great Dr. So let's see if you can get through the whole Great Dream.
All of my well-being things that I've done for myself.
For yourself.
Oh,
yes. So, for example, just G stands for giving. So you need to tell me what you've done that's been giving, either for yourself or just made you feel good about giving. And it can be something tiny, it can be something huge, whatever it is that comes to mind.
But what creates my own well-being?
Yes.
Okay.
That's made you feel good.
I think I've got this. It's made me feel good.
So, let's go. Giving. When have you done something that made you feel good for others?
A few weeks ago, still going support and giving my time to the Caribbean community, seniors.
Fabulous. Relating, connecting with other people.
Every day. Every day I reach out, connect. So even if it's just to my mum, how you doing? And my dad. And so every day.
Exercising, taking care of your body.
Every day. Walking my little boys. I got dogs.
Oh, lovely. I will ask you about them after. Awareness, living life mindfully.
It's always bearing in mind what I do, does it have implications on somebody else?
Fabulous. Trying out, so learning new things for yourself.
I have young children, so they always introduce me into new things. Mum, have you tried this? Mum, have you seen that? Oh, so yeah, keeping youth.
Brilliant. Direction, having goals for yourself.
Every day, I'm blinkered. I have a goal. It's a long term.
Brilliant. Resilience, ways to bounce back.
Oh, just get up.
And that's your time up there. You've got as far as I did, which is Great Dra.
Great Dra. I have a Great Dra.
Great Dra. Well done. And if you've been playing that at home, if you can think of those things that you've been doing to make yourself feel good, we need to keep adding those to our lives.
If somebody actually gets to the whole Great Dream, bring me back, because I'm very competitive.
I will do that.
But I think this is going to be impossible.
I think we're going to put you ahead of me, because I think that's fair. We're on the leaderboard. Yeah, you're going to get on the leaders board. So you can add yourself on if you wish to.
I will.
Yes, there's the leaders board there.
Signing it now.
We are challenging our stars to do this because we need a little bit of a reminder sometimes that even something small makes a difference. And the more we're doing these things that Action for Happiness suggests regularly, the more they become normalised, the more they become second nature to us, and the better it becomes. So, very well done. Very well done. We're now going to take a look at one of the scenes where the message, the key message.
Yeah. Oh, love this scene.
We'll have a look.
reclaiming words like nigger, owning words like dog, bitch, and whore, sicken and hurt me to the core. Exactly how do you reclaim, recoup, or retrieve something that was never yours to begin with? By definition, appropriating something that does not belong to you is called stealing. No other people revel in calling their women names or seeking fame through denigration of each other. We've allowed creation of this lucrative, exploitative industry of music, movies, and merchandise in this game of musical lies. We sustain these industries economically and culturally perpetuate the insanity of our babies bouncing to words that should only be heard in over 18 or R-rated movies. We search through the ruins of a deliberately distorted past in the hope of finding undoctored truths. And the best we can salvage are words that are cast to music as if the defilement inherent in each use and entreat is somehow sanitized by the beat. Are you seriously telling me on repeat that we cannot find other terms of endearment? King, queen, brother, sister, lover, friend, elder, teacher. They've got us so conditioned that calling my sister Empress sounds contrived and pretentious. But the N-word, oh, well, that's okay. That's just a black way of saying, hey. Is there no other flavor than nigger? Is there no other punctuation, no other syntax, lexicon, or linguistic interruption other than the ubiquitous nigger? Nigger, 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 nigger. I'm 100% nigger. Nigger, 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 nigger. I'm 200% nigger. Oh, I get the obvious satire intended on the track, but the price we pay is higher than anyone black should have to pay. We watch our youth annihilate each other because there is no value in being a nigger. We are strangely silent and non-vocal about this. But let a white man call us nigger. Oh, and that's a trigger. We are proper mad and ready to sue, showing the court how aggrieved we are and that compensation is due. Then we spend our monetary award on an album where the artist gets to call me bitch. So, the rapper has a daughter now, and after making millions merchandising our genocide and dehumanization, he gets a revelation. He vows not to use those lyrics anymore because he doesn't want anyone calling his new daughter a whore. His past? Water under the bridge, perhaps. But for the rest of us today, and generations to come, it's still contaminated water we're expected to drink. Since we do not know our history, we commit
to memory lyrics that magically strip out all the negativity in the word nigger by replacing the ER at the end with an A. And today we'd be like, hi, what's up, my nigger? As if stripping out a couple of letters makes it all better. There was a time when we would endure clumps of flesh being torn from our backs to stack the future high for our children. Now, while humming songs about booty calls, we cross the street and lock our doors as we listen to our children call each other niggers, dogs, bitches, and whores.
My jaw is still on the floor from that, because this is something, and I know this is part of why you're writing the play, why you're performing this play. I've never considered that, because to me, you're using a word to reclaim something, but you're absolutely right. It's a devaluing word. And then to just throw it back at you. Why? Why would you do that? It's to put it, I guess, into the context that I understand it. It would be if my parents always called me useless or something like that. And then I go, oh no, I'm gonna make that into my burlesque name. I'm just gonna call myself
Miss Useless.
That doesn't work for me.
Right.
And it's the same.
It's the same.
That's being taught because it's through music.
And you said devalue. I'm going to make it even worse. Dehumanize.
Yes.
It was to separate us as people that don't have the same brain capacity, ability. And so for us to keep using that word and for people to still keep hearing it, you've got people that really believe what they think that word is. So every time we're saying it, they're just sitting back laughing. Yeah. And I'm like,
why are you letting this happen?
Yeah.
It's absolutely, it's one of those things where it needs to be said because it needs to be stopped.
100%. And for the people that are only allowed to say that word is the black community. And it's just, for me, it's one of the hardest things to still keep hearing.
Because I find, and I agree with that, and I find that worse in a way, because if you are going to get angry and sue somebody else or shout at somebody else for using that term, it is a bit like, why is the term still allowed in vocabulary?
It's very hypocritical. And I mean, we still have in schools today teachers saying the full word and saying, but I'm putting it into context. There's no context that needs to be said. You don't need to say the word. You can say the N word and explain it. But when I, in the last 6 months, have been to 2 schools and I'm being told by students that that word is being used in the classroom by teachers.
Yeah. It's propagating stereotypes, it's propagating hate, actually, still on a very different level that we don't see.
Constant. It's constant microaggression.
And that's where these things need to be said. These things need to be made explicit. And so with that, I know when people come and see this, and I'm hoping we'll be able to show you the whole production as part of one of our specials later on in the year. But when people come to see this, they are going to want to see other work. They're going to want to see, and obviously you are only one person. You cannot keep writing and writing and writing as quickly, although I know we will have some in the future. But in that meantime, whilst we're waiting for your next play, are there any pieces that you would recommend us to go and have a look at?
There are some great pieces. I saw one a few weeks ago called The Big Life. Amazing. It's actually been brought back to the West End, and it tells a beautiful story about 4 couples coming over on the Windrush and their journey. It's kind of a love story. It's really beautiful. Musical, it's got some great actors in there that you might have seen on telly. So there are some great pieces. There's certainly lots of literature and films that I would definitely say. There's a film called Entangled, Enslavement. There was or quite a few books. What I do say to people is there's so many sites on social media that give Black history, but don't just look at it from the UK, Britain. You've got to start looking at Black history that's being delivered from America and from Africa, other places. Because if you only go with one source, you're only getting one
perspective or experience.
So it's really important that you do look elsewhere. So I'm sure I'll share some links so that you can do that. But I just immerse myself and try to look at great leaders from the past and what they were trying to do. So I've gone heavily into biographies from Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, from Nelson Mandela, Maya Angelou, and within the arts of those that were the soundtrack to the movement of Black Panther, etc.
Yes.
So there is so much for people to go and listen to. And if there's music that you're hearing with words that you don't like, there's loads of, I would call them poets, musicians like Gil Scott-Heron that tells beautiful stories of sort of the economic status of why that we're behind and things like this because of the investment just hasn't been there. So there's so many ways that you can learn. So if you're not a reader, you've got films to watch. If you're not into films, you've got other things to do. So find something that you can learn from. So if you know, I'm not a great reader, why are you going to get a book?
Absolutely.
When it's going to just collect dust.
Yes, no, absolutely. And also it is important to look at not just mainstream, because what goes into the mainstream is not necessarily coming from a source that's going to be helpful or knowledgeable.
No, and that's why I say, look at world news. How the UK and Europe tell news, very different to the Western world. So you have to start to come out of your comfort zone.
Out of the echo chamber.
Thank you very much. And get out there.
Hi, my name is Dr. Constance Leland, the host of Level Up Circle, where I elevate the world through education, one learner at a time. Join me on Fresh Takes, Thursdays at 9 a.m. PST, right here on E360 TV.
So let's go back to you. Now, are there any particular roles or characters that you either want to create or want to play yourself?
There's definitely more roles that I want to create.
Right. Yes.
But I'm going to keep that right there for now.
Absolutely great.
But if I had the opportunity and somebody said, we'd like you to be in a play or a film, what have you, and play somebody, the person that I would really love to portray is Maya Angelou. Absolutely incredible. She grew up through diversity, really hardship, living situation. She didn't speak for a number of years for abuse that she had because she thought the words before she stopped speaking, she divulged abuse and that person then got killed. So for her, she thought her words was that powerful, would have an effect. So she stopped speaking for a while. But she then obviously gained her voice back, started speaking, and became a writer, poet, dancer, activist. She just did so many things that when we're told there's that glass ceiling, and I'm like, reading about her, I'm like, there was no glass ceiling for this woman. Yeah. She just did and achieved and kept going. And despite things, resilience, kept going. And I was like, that is the ultimate role model.
Yes.
So for me, reading her first book about her life and then her poetry, I was just like, wow, wow, wow. And I haven't come across anybody else that's given me as much impact as she had.
Yes.
So I look for people that are multi-talented because she was the first indication to show me you're more than one thing. Everybody is more than one thing.
Yes.
It's just finding it and unlocking it.
And it's that message that you put across in everything that you do about your voice. And the voice is powerful.
Right.
That's the funny thing.
Yeah, so you've got to understand, and that's what I'm saying. She understood the words that could come out.
Yes.
And then that made me just think, okay, there's so much more that people waste their words, their platform. And for me, I'll take it back to music. When people are singing or rapping about materialistic things, I'm like this.
Yeah.
You got a platform, you could be saying something. But I get it, not everybody wants to, and the world will be pretty heavy if we all did that, so we need the lighter moments.
But it's doing it with care. It's doing it with, with understanding of the intention of what you're doing. In your own life, is there anything you would change? And if so, why? Or if not, great.
No, because everything is a learning curve and has made me the way that I am, and that's the bad and the good, but you have to go through the bad to really find out and understand who you are. And if you shy away from, well, that's not working for me, and just move on to the next thing, you're never learning. And too many people are too quick to jump out of relationships that don't work, a task at work or a job, oh, it's just too hard, etc. Too many people jump ship for an easy life. Life is not easy.
Life is not fulfilling either when it's easy. I think that's the other thing. I think you get so much more when you have to work that little bit harder for it.
I am grateful that I have to work, and I enjoy working. Because I'm working on something that I believe in.
Yes, and you can see that, and I think that's just beautiful. Now, where can we learn more, follow you, get to your website, those sorts of links?
So the organisation is Spectacular Arts, and we have a website, we have Facebook and Instagram. I'd say Instagram's probably the best one to follow on, the one that I could easily do. So that's Spectacular Arts. We are creating a charity called ICU, so we're waiting for that to come up. So that's ICU is to honour the 25th of March, which is the International Day of Remembrance for the enslaved victims of the transatlantic slave trade since 2007. Hardly anybody knows about it. So ICU is for that, and the name is ICU, not just the colour of our skin. I see you, and now it's time to honour you. But also the eyes, with an S, see you, is a nod to when somebody of a minority or black is not in that room, and you hear any racial slurs, microaggressions, both eyes in that room. Don't pretend, oh, I didn't hear it. There's nobody else in there. And that's why we say, you've got to choose. Both eyes need to be open, not one closed because there's nobody in the room, so you can get away with it.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and it's also when you call yourself an ally as well. It's about you having both eyes open.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Calling it out.
Calling it out.
It's not about kind of going, oh, well, it's fine. No one got hurt.
There's nobody in the room. Well, we didn't offend anybody, did we?
It's out there, isn't it?
It was in that room. It circulated. You heard it. So when people are creating parties and doing fancy dress and they think, oh, it's okay, nobody from the ethnic minority is going to come, so we can blackface or something like that. No, you can't. No, you can't.
And actually, you remind me of how far behind the Southeast Asians are and East Asians are because yellowface is still happening. So,
I'll help you with that one.
You need to. Oh, Sharon, I wish we had longer, but it's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
It's really been wonderful. Let's play out with, apart from Rise of the Empress, where it's really about releasing voice for the first time, someone finding that ability to speak.
And the Rise of the Empress, 4th of April at the Quarry Theatre.
Brilliant.
A white woman's white lies got Emmett Till killed. A 14-year-old boy kidnapped by grown men, then brutally beaten beyond recognition. Gunshot to the head, dead. Feet tied with barbed wire, weighed down with a large metal fan. In the Tallahatchie River. Shiver as his murderers are acquitted with the gavel and the clan. Because white lies matter more than black lives do. Imagine this, lies about a slight 14-year-old boy with a lisp, allegedly whistles at her, sexually harasses her, goes behind the counter in the grocery store, slips his hand around her waist, looking for much more. Fast forward. A white woman feigns hysteria, wisteria, climbs escalating her sense of threat of a black man bird watching.